Hi team. Good evening and good morning everyone. This is Magesh. I am working as a development manager in DCKAP. Today I am going to speak about how Magento helps to resolve B2B e-commerce challenges. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen. Okay. Everyone here know about B2B users, right? Uh, can you let me know who are all the B2B users normally? Do you have any idea or who will be as a B2B users participants in the website? Okay. So B2B users will be a merchant uh, who will make a purchase in the website and also who sells the products in the website. They are all the B2B users. Magento has a good platform for all the B2B users with a good organization structure. Mostly B2B users will need around most specific features which will be helpful for them to run their store and make their purchase very fast. So Magento supports these roles features here. Those are company structure and quick order, requisition lists, code and shared catalog and some payment methods. We are going to have a brief look on these items today. So company structure, what B2B will be has, there will be a single admin or single owner and they may be running multiple stores and they need a feature called, they need to manage everyone under their account. This is the main feature they will be always expecting. So they will have an option to run on both the storefront as well as admin access they need. So in Magento, Magento supports both of them. Even they can come in as a register as a be user in the front end and make purchase, and they can create some structures around, below them as a manager and end executives. These type of users they can create and they can make purchase, and in admin also they can log in and they can add some products and they can sell the products in the website as well. So Magento supports these two features, and this is the structure which Magento supports now. It is a company, they can register as a company and then they can create some divisions in them, like a manager, and manager will be handling multiple stores, and they can create stores, and each executives in the stores will have some accounts, and based on stores also they can provide some access, and even sub-level manager, sub-manager also they can be created, and the end level of divisions can be made in this company structure. This is the most if needed feature for B2B, and Magento supports that as well. And next to that, this is the structure how Magento handles. You can create a root user and sub users kind of things. And catalogs, other thing, B2B catalogs, what they expect is they need a specific pricing for them. Even there for a B2C they will have a separate pricing, and even B2B, if they are purchasing regularly and they make the 100 and 1000 bulk purchase, that can be handled in the Magento admin, and based on that the pricing may change based on each. If even the store admin can give us different price for each B2B users, and that can be managed as here, and separate content and the promotions can be handled for specific segment to increase the store revenue, and also payments can be made based on the B2B needs as well, because they are making a bulk purchase. Someone may pay after they get delivered, or even some users pay after a certain time of period. So Magento handles these very easily. That is some of the payment methods are pay on account or credit cards or any other alternate payment or pay later. These kind of options are already available in Magento. And order management and inventory, and this is in Magento you can integrate multiple channels in a single place. Even you can manually sell in the store and update it in the system, that can be handled, or else you can sell in Amazon or Flipkart, and that can also be integrated directly with the Magento, so that inventory get dynamically changed based on the sales in all the channels. And this reduces the way this helps to store admin to maintain the inventory, as well as B2B can easily deliver the items based on their needs as well. And easier ordering system. This is one more best feature which Magento already has. That is a quick order. As normally a B2C users, they go and search for a product and they say they purchase only a single product. But B2B, it is not that case. They have everything in their catalog and they just enter the SKUs or item names and make a bulk purchase. And quick order helps. Here it is just they will have two options, just uploading all the SKUs, or even they can have a CSV which is maintained in their store, and they can come to website and log in the website and just upload the CSV and make the purchase. And other thing what B2B will be expecting is if they purchase for a large quantity, they will expect for a negotiation with the seller. Even that can be handled. They can request for a quote for the list of items they need, and then all the communications can be maintained inside the Magento itself, and as well as email notification will be sent to all the users, both the teams. And requisition list. This is a list that I can, like a wish list, you can enter each products in the wish list and make a purchase, and that is used for B2C. Requisition list is like you can order everything and just save in the cart, and later when you need to purchase, you can just go and click a single button, place order, then the purchase will be made at on time. And other feature which Magento supports is sales rep and CSR logins. Most of the B2B users won't be not that much of a system, and they don't work on computers, so they can just call the sales reps and customer support executives, and they can just make some give that I need this product, and CSRs and sales reps can enter all the details in the system and make the purchase on behalf of the particular B2B user, and this is also available in Magento. Next one is I'm going to explain you how we are going to configure these in Magento backend. Okay, by default, these features will be disabled in Magento. You need to go and enable what are all the features you need. If a customer, if the store admin decides that customer can manage use company, then we need to enable that. Once that is enabled, quote star catalog will be can be enabled here. And then other one is a payment. Even no pay, without payment information also, B2B users can make purchase, and that too can be handled in the backend. And whether what a pay on account, whether that is needed in the website or not, that can be handled. And the store card is needed or not, that can be handled. Because once the store card is enabled, then the B2B users can store all their cards, and once they are making the purchase, they can just go and make the add the products needed and just click the place order. So they don't need to enter the card informations and all. They can just select and save it. Okay, and quote also, admin can manage this. What is the minimum amount is needed for the to raise a quote? Like some users, if just $100 or $200, they make a quote, that won't be accepted. Even that can be managed by store admin. And for a minimum amount message, what is the message should be given, and what is the expiration date for a quote, like whether it is where the code will be in the website for 1 week or 1 month, that can be managed. And what type of files can be uploaded by B2B users, that can also be managed. And the maximum file size can also be managed in the Magento backend. And these everything can be managed by the store admin, and based on that, B2B users will get all those features. And this is the screen where they can enable. Once you enable the company, yes, then you can enable share catalog and B2B code. These options will be available. And all the options, which is, if you think a store admin can think that quick order is not required, they can give no. On even requisition is not required, they can give no. If this is required, if this is given as yes, then they can automate. These options will be available for the B2B users. So now I'm just concluding how B2B Magento supports B2B. Like these features like a quick order or request a code or company structure features provides a good user experience for B2B users and this too helps to increase the sales for stores. And we too have suggested these options to our client, and even they have a good turnovers on B2B business. Okay, and this is just a walkthrough of how Magento helps to make the B2B business. Do you guys have any questions?
If you guys have any questions, feel free to answer. Unmute your microphone right now. You can answer, or you could type it into the chat box. We'll leave it open for the next couple minutes.
All right, you should be able to see my window talking about Magento certifications. Is that correct? Can you see that as well?
Yeah, Joseph, we can.
All right, very good. Well, it is wonderful to be here. Certifications are something that I am really passionate about because I have seen the difference that they make in people's lives, and I'm all about that. I want to see, I really want to see progress being made, and Magento is my small corner of the world, and I love to see how certifications can truly impact somebody's life. So without further ado, let's jump into why I think certifications are important, and specific, why be Magento certified. There's a whole bunch of certifications out there, but today we're talking about certifications for Magento, and it's something that is within, I believe, everyone's reach with enough time and enough effort invested in this. So why should I become Magento certified? One of the incredible reasons is that more respect is then given. So whether it's with our colleagues, whether it is with a merchant that we're working with as we're building a website for them, when we say we are Magento certified, when they see it on our LinkedIn profile, when they see it at the bottom of our email, and universally from what I see, is that more respect is given. So they know, wow, this person has achieved this Magento certification. And Magento certifications are, I would say, not the easiest certifications to achieve. I've taken quite a few in my life, whether, it's actually funny, when I was younger, I achieved and passed both my electrical and my plumbing certificates. So on trades certificates, and to be frank, those were actually easier than some of these Magento tests. So there's a lot of respect that comes with being Magento certified. Hopefully more pay. I say that because I do know that not all companies can afford more pay, but immediately you might not receive more pay. But here is what I would like to share with you. And this is probably the biggest reason of all. Long-term knowledge investment. I know each one of us would love to see more pay right now, more respect tomorrow. I mean, we all have to feed our families. We all have to, make a living there, pay our rent, pay our mortgage, whatever. But this long-term knowledge investment, because you're not going to see the results of this tomorrow. You probably won't fully see the results of this in 6 months. But in a year, maybe in 2 years, you will start seeing these results. What I'm talking about here is as you add information to your mind, as you study, as you investigate, as you adopt what I consider to be the number one skill, the number one trait or attribute that we must possess in order to pass a Magento certification, as you adopt that, you will transform your life. And when I say that number one skill, that number one trait or attribute, it is curiosity. I'll give you that right here, right now. It is curiosity. Those who are curious are far more likely to pass a Magento certification than those who do not possess that trait. And the nice thing is that trait is not something that we're born with. Well, maybe some people have a little bit more. I mean, you compare a cat versus a dog. A cat is more curious. A dog is going to be usually less curious to an extent. The nice thing is for us humans, we can learn that. We can bring that into our life. And I'll talk a little bit more about that trait as we go through this, because I think it will completely change how this works for you. All right, so long-term knowledge investment. This, my friends, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, as you invest in your knowledge and your learning, your study through the course of this time, you will achieve more respect, you will achieve more pay. So these hopefully will happen tomorrow as you pass a test, but for sure they will happen over the course of time. I can give you so many examples of how that works. So why be certified? These 3 reasons right here. But how does this happen? How does it work? I took a test last year. As you can see here in my PowerPoint, June 10th of 2019. It was at 5:32 in the afternoon. I finished my test, and you see this result here, and that is a fail. It is a fail. And this is probably everyone's worst fear when taking any type of a test. The last thing we want is to fail. Get this grade right here, 51%. That's a horrible score, just in case anybody was wondering. I'll put that out there right now. It was horrible. But I got a fail, and I got a fail grade. Nobody wants that. We're all scared of that. So let's talk about first, and get this out of the way, why do we fail? What happens to make us likely to fail? Because if we can avoid that, then we'll be more likely to pass. Well, let's look at this. First, they don't study. That was me. I will say that right now. I did not study for the cloud exam. I thought, hey, cloud hosting, we got to know about Nginx, Apache, PHP, MySQL, some configuration for that, maybe some automated stuff for that. It's not a big deal at all. Cloud, it could not be easier. It has to be easier than the easiest of all Magento tests. I didn't study. I got a 51%. Okay, round that up to 52%. It doesn't matter. I didn't study. So I failed as a result of my lack of study. That's an easy one to overcome. Really easy. The antidote to that is we study a little bit more. So that's good. They memorize. And I've seen this over and over again. It's like for the practice tests that we sell, there's over and over again, people will take these practice tests. I've seen 50 to 100 times. And it takes a while to work through each one of these practice tests. They'll be getting 100% scores time after time again. And then they go take the real test and they fail. Why is that? Well, because they tried to memorize the questions on the practice test, and those questions are not on the real test. The practice tests, whether they're from us or Magento U, and we'll talk about some of this coming up here, there are questions on there, and they're covering domains of knowledge or bodies of knowledge or of thought, but they're not actually they're not actually copies of the real questions, because that would be cheating. And I know none of us want to cheat. So memorizing just questions is not going to be the solution either. So the good news is not memorizing stuff, but instead studying and investigating and building sample scenarios and case studies, use cases. All of that, you might find that it's actually a lot easier than you think to get the knowledge necessary to pass the test. So memorization is also out. And that's the good news. It's easy. The tests are in English, and this is probably the hardest thing, unfortunately, to overcome. But that said, all of you are listening to me. You can all understand me, I hope. So that means that you can understand English. So it means you're 80% of the way there in order to be able to pass these tests. So good for you. And I will just put this out there right now. If I was sat down and expected to take a test in Hindi, I would get about a 25% chance of 25% score. You all, what I see the average of the first time, especially if some of these points are not taken into consideration, it's usually at least 50, more like about 60%. And the Magento pass scores are in the 60% range, from 62 to 68%. It varies. So right there, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of me. And so I applaud you for how well you are able to work through these tests. So good for you. But it does require a little bit extra work. And this is the hardest part of these 3 points in order to be able to pass the test. The good news is there are people all over the world, in India and Europe and South America and Mexico and Japan, and even China that pass these tests. So it's very possible. And you can do it too. And that's what I want to help you understand today, how you can do this. All right. So here's our 3 points that we're going to talk about, and then hopefully we'll have a couple minutes for Q&A at the end. Which test should I take? If we are expecting to go on a trip and we start out by taking the wrong road on this trip, we're going to go we're never going to end up at our destination. So my goal is to help you understand the right test to take. And so that means preparing for the right test. So we're going to talk about that. How do we prepare? We have this whole body of knowledge out there that's required. We need to know, but how do we understand what we do need to know for this test? And then, of course, how do we take the test? So these 3 points, I think, will help clear your mind as far as what does it take to get through these Magento certifications. Before we do, I wanted to share that I have achieved 7 out of the 8 Magento 2 certifications. The only one I have not taken is the order management one. But all the others I have, and I've also helped write 2 of these tests, and I have helped update in quite a number of these tests. So I'm really, my goal is that my perspective brings additional clarity to what we're talking about so that you can take advantage of that and use that to pass your test the first time. All right, so what test is for me? What test should I take first? So there are 8 Magento 2 tests, and we're going to talk about each one of these individually, and we'll talk about the order in which you should take them. The prices range between $200 for the associate developer test and $300 for all the other tests. So the associate developer test is what I consider to be the bargain. Let's look at the path. And you'll notice that the first test I think you should take is the associate developer test. Why is that? Well, it's the cheapest. I especially now, my friends, in this whole COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, the whole ordeal, money's getting tighter for everybody. So if we start out with the associate developer and then work up, here's my thinking. I see many people skip the associate. They say, well, I'm a professional developer. I've been working with Magento for 2 years, and I'm definitely in the professional developer category. They take the professional developer and they fail it. And take it again. Often they'll fail it. They take it again, and regularly they'll pass it. It takes usually about 3 tries for somebody to take the professional developer to pass it. The associate developer, on the other hand, regularly I see people pass it the first time, and then they go on to pass this professional developer. So look at it this way. So instead of trying to take the professional developer twice, that's that'd be $600 maybe $900. What if you started by taking the associate developer first? That's $200, and then take the professional next. That's $300. So that's $500 right there. So yes, you start out with this elementary sounding, basic sounding test, but ultimately look at it this way. This is getting your feet wet in preparing for a Magento exam. This is getting you practice as far as what it's like to take this test. Once you take that, then you move up to the professional developer. And I see that as the way for success time and time again. And it saves you $100, and you now have 2 badges to show for it, the associate and the professional developer. So my friends, if there's one thing you could take away from there, is don't take the professional developer first, please. I have seen this way too often. Way too often. Start with the associate and then work up to the professional. Here's a question I see that just came in. Can we take any of these tests now that test centers are closed? Is there a possibility to take the test from home online? Yes, and we'll be talking about exactly how to do that here in a little bit. So hold on, and we'll be getting there. So the associate developer, start with that, work up to professional developer. And then we have all the other ones here, front-end, JavaScript, Cloud, Professional Developer Plus, which should be the taken as probably the last one of all. All right, so what's the associate developer? Again, this is $200. I put this as the easiest of all the Magento tests. So it would be, say, a 1 out of 8, the easiest test of all. But I'm not saying it's easy, okay? So people often go into it same way I went into that Cloud test earlier, and they're thinking, wow, this is easy, it's associate, it's basic. No, it's not that easy. There are still some interesting questions on there, and you still got to study. And so that's actually why I have pulled together. So we have study guides for each one of these. But I've also pulled together a whole, more or less, course for this associate developer certification. It's called a project guide. You can go on our website, find it. And I have literally 40 videos on YouTube, 40 or 50 videos on YouTube. I have a PDF that's free, and I have a whole Git project that goes through step by step as far as what does it take in order to learn a massive amount of knowledge that's going to set you up to prepare to pass this test. So I'm really excited about that. And it's helped people already. And I'm looking forward for feedback from you all as far as if you then work through that and take the test. Now, I will warn you, it will take time. It takes time to pass these tests, and it takes time to pass the associate developer. But this time is a long-term knowledge investment that will pay you back many times over in the years to come. Associate developer, start with that. It's the easiest of all the tests. It's your starting out place for becoming Magento certified. The front-end developer. I will say this. If you only work on the front end and you've built themes, you've done a whole bunch of stuff there, you can start with that one. It's probably 2 out of 8. So it's the second easiest test. So it's fairly easy. But you're still going to have to work through a lot of study, a lot of effort into what does it take in order to pass this test. Again, this test is covering translations, it's covering themes, blocks, layout XML, a little bit of JavaScript, some less, static asset compilation, that sort of thing. So the front end is great to take if you are especially focused on the front end area. The professional developer, this is what everyone wants to start with, but I always say, please don't start here. Please don't start here because you will almost guaranteed fail the first time you take it. I can almost guarantee it. It's just because there is a level of skill that comes with taking a Magento test. It's just part of how it is. It takes you getting into taking these tests. So professional developer, I'm going to put that as probably the 7th most difficult Magento test you can take is the professional developer. Would you rather start with the easiest one or the 7th most difficult test? This one covers all the same concepts as the associate developer, but it's just in a lot more depth. So start with the associate, work up to the professional developer test. Again, this one is $300 US to take. The JavaScript, this was the one I just passed early last month, almost exactly a month ago today. And I'm not a front-end developer, much less a JavaScript developer. And I was like, that was the one test I kind of had this feeling deep down inside myself that I really should take. I did not want to take it. And so here the lesson here. I did not feel like taking it. I did not want to take it. It talked about difficult concepts. It talked about UI components. But I realized I needed to challenge myself. If there was something that I did not feel like studying, could that be the thing that I actually needed to study most of all? And the answer is yes. I needed to challenge myself to something that seemed bigger than me, something that seemed harder than I could undertake. And you know, the cool thing was, as I did this with a whole group of other people, we had a certification challenge earlier this year, and I was really excited to be able to pass this test. It was not easy. It was hard, but the results of passing it, I was like, wow, this is incredible. So this JavaScript test, I would probably put this as 5 out of 8. There's definitely harder, there's definitely easier ones. But a lot of this comes back to your study of this specific topic. So I studied, I practiced, I wrote a sample module, I wrote a whole bunch of sample JavaScript files, and I passed the test. The cloud. This was the one I failed. And funny thing is, I'm going to put this as 4 out of 8. It was probably, let me put it this way. My dad always told me growing up, so many things it's easy once you know it, right? I mean, in many ways, Magento development is easy once you know it. Driving a car is easy once you know it. A whole bunch of things are easy once you know it. So Magento Cloud, yeah, it's easy once you know it. Get in there, study it, especially if you've built a Magento Cloud project or 2, you'll be able to ace the test without hardly any study. The Professional Developer Plus. This is like the crown jewels. This is like the most incredible test that you could ever take and pass. So this Plus, it covers everything that the developer does, but it also adds commerce features. So if you don't have access to a commerce environment or commerce code, don't try taking this test. Just leave it as is and say, okay, once I get commerce someday, then I can try passing this test. The interesting thing is I'm going to put this as a 6 out of 8. I personally think that it's actually a little easier than the Professional Developer Plus, but the important thing is it does cover commerce as well. So it has kind of an additional hurdle of information or knowledge. Again, this is $300 US in order to pass that. The Solution Specialist. I am going to put this as the 8 out of 8. This is what I consider to be the most difficult Magento test to pass. It covers not only general e-commerce knowledge, GDPR, PCI compliance, taxes, European taxes. I don't know how much it covers on the United States side of taxes. But then also dives into a little bit of Magento Cloud, Magento architecture. It covers customization of Magento, the admin panel, the front end, B2B, MSI, like some of this stuff that us developers don't get into on a regular basis. Now, if we are into this stuff on a regular basis, it's actually could be one of the easier tests. So my suggestions as far as 8 out of 8 or 7 out of 8 are more or less arbitrary, but just what I see as far as experience-wise, how hard it is to pass. But I suggest going into this as being the most difficult test to pass. The good news is for those of my friends of you that are watching here that are not developers, this is your test. So if you want to pass get a Magento certification, this is your test to take, and this is extremely difficult to take. It is a difficult, tough test. Solution Specialist, my friends, this is the one that you would want to take. And it is difficult, but it is a good challenge. So that's the general overview. The one I did not cover is order management. And I've left a space in my 8 numbering system for that, even though I have not taken that test, and I don't think I've met anybody that has either. So it's very niche, very specific to that one part of Magento, and unfortunately it's not well used. So as it becomes a little more mainstream, maybe I'll try to take it and get a study guide and practice test pulled together for you at that point. So how do we prepare? And this is probably the second most important question. First one is whether we take what test we take. Now we need to talk about how do we prepare. We have this test. We don't know what's on this test. We know there's going to be questions asked and it's going to be difficult, but we don't know how we need to prepare in order to take this test. So let's talk about that. Here is the idea I want you to come away with. It is not the test itself that is as valuable. It is the certification. It is the knowledge, the preparation to get the test that is most valuable. That is what I want you to take away from this. The time you invest studying for this, the time that you use to prepare, to learn, to study, to research, to build samples, to step through the code line by line, that is the massive amount of value you are gaining. The certification, I'm sure to each one of us is important, but view the knowledge in order to get that to that certification place as worth 10 times more than the value of the certification itself. That is the key point. So I had a couple questions come in. What is suitable for marketing executive? I would suggest the solution specialist, depending on how much you are into the Magento admin, how much you are into building Magento solutions. That would probably be a good option, but it's going to be really, really difficult. Here's Edward has a question. My firm only. Okay, so on the solution specialist, that is a good point. So Edward basically is asking, how important is it that he has commerce experience? That test was written around commerce. There is a ton of questions about commerce on that test. So you really need commerce access in order to pass the test, unfortunately. I'm not putting this out there as a sales pitch, but just hear me out. For our solutions specialist prep course, so I have basically a course to help you prepare for that. You do get your own commerce environment, your own commerce sandbox, your own. So that would be a way to get experience with that. But another way is becoming a community insider. I say community insider. I know now that Magento has rolled that up into their Adobe Bronze partner status. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, like joining that, becoming a member there, but that would be another way to get it. And that you also get a cloud environment. And so that would help you prepare for 2 certifications, but it's still like $4,000 or $5,000 a year. So that's not cheap either, but just wanted to throw that out there. Yes. All right. Okay. So let's continue on. So here's a big idea. Questions come from the study guide. So you can go to u.magento.com, like university, but U for university.magento.com. And you can download a study guide for each one of these tests. They're free. That study guide is literally how Magento writes the test. So we walk into this test room and they more or less give us an Excel spreadsheet that has that study guide on there. And there's a few other points on there as well. They say, okay, you write your name next to each one of these questions and you're going to write questions, or you're going to go write questions for each one of these subjects. That's how it is. So the questions come from the study guide. If a subject is not found on the study guide, you don't have to worry about it really literally being on the test. Certification papers, proof of your knowledge. The big point here, though, is that you need practical experience. Memorization is excellent if you want to become a doctor, lawyer, a professional on those lines, but memorization is not helpful in passing a Magento test. Keep that in mind. All right, so as we study, read all available literature. There's Magento U has materials. I've written a whole bunch of materials for this, as you see in the second point, for passing a test. But read everything you can. There's articles on specific subjects. For example, MSI. How does MSI work? Read the user guide. Read the dev docs for that. If you're looking for patches, I have information in my study guide. There's bullet points in the Magento study guide. There's dev docs. There's plenty of other articles all across the internet about these specific points. Read them. Take your time to investigate this. Remember how I said curiosity is the #1 trait to being able to pass a test? It is, because you're going to be curious. Okay, what does this involve? How do I understand this? So write notes in English. Remember, we want to hone our English speaking capabilities, our English comprehension capabilities, not speaking, comprehension. It's about speed. It's about being fast. So 90 minutes a test is all you have to answer 60 questions. That's 1.5 minutes a question. Some questions you'll probably get hopefully in 15 seconds, but some questions that might take you 2 minutes to answer. You want to be really, really fast in understanding English. Focus on a week or 2 for each objective. It might take you longer, it might take you less time, but just plan on it taking you maybe 1 to 2 weeks, maybe more like 2 weeks per objective. Some of the tests have 10 objectives, so that would probably be like a week per objective. Some have more like 5. That would be more like 2 weeks per objective. Dedicate consistent time. This is probably what I see as the most important aspect of your study. What I did to pass the JavaScript developer test, and I do not consider myself a JavaScript developer, front-end developer. Starting in January, working through the beginning of March, 4 days a week, I committed. So notice that word committed to taking at least 15 minutes a day to study on these subjects. Well, I would come down to my office. This is my office right here. I would come down here every morning and I would study. I would leave my email off. I wouldn't open LinkedIn or anything like that. I would have everything closed, but I would study for 15 minutes at least every morning. I worked my way through the study guide. I built examples. I built proof of knowledge there, and I probably should add that into my presentation. What does some of that look like? A dedicated, consistent time. At the beginning of March, I passed that test. So here is an example from the Magento U study guide. If you just wanted to work through that, what does it take in order to learn this? So you'll see that there's these main points. 2.1, demonstrate understanding UI component architecture. And then there's all these different pieces of information. What you need to do is dive into each one of these. Okay, what is UI component workflow? How does it work? What is the UI component workflow? Okay, how are UI components initialized? How are they executed? And you might say, Joseph, good grief, this seems like so much work. Yeah, because it is. And I'll be really honest with you. It is a lot of work. But as you deep dive in each one of these sections, you're going to become so knowledgeable about it. It'll be ridiculous. You will have your colleagues coming to you saying, hey, how does this work? I'm stuck with building this UI component. Can you help me, please? All right. And here's where I say curiosity comes in. Curiosity says, this UI component workflow seems really difficult. I don't even really know where to start in this. How do I start? Where do I start? But instead of saying, okay, well, that seems too difficult, I'm just going to go on. Let's go on to the next UI component initialization. Maybe I can figure that out. No, that's too hard too. No, instead, what you have to say is, this is hard. Boy, I don't even know where to start on this. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to get into this. I'm going to dig into this. I am going to conquer this section. And that's what it's going to take, my friends. I guarantee that is what it is going to take. And curiosity, the number one attribute to those who pass the test, I would put it's the opposite of laziness. I struggle with being lazy. And I'm just putting this on a real personal note here. I struggle with being lazy. There's some of these sections, UI component workflow, I just did not want to get into when I wrote the study guide for this. I was like, oh, gee, this seems so hard. I really don't want to get into it. But I knew I had to. For the sake of those who are reading this study guide, you have to, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your career, for the sake of your future, you have to dig into this. You have to put aside those feelings of, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like doing this. You have to dig in. Here's how to dig in. All right, so we think of, okay, UI component workflow. So ultimately, UI components are rendered in some way, and as you investigate this, you'll see that UI components are rendered into the HTML output of a page. So you think, okay, well, let's go find out where this is rendered. So you would search through the code. You would find out exactly the line where they're rendered. So you set a breakpoint there. You'd refresh your page. And I will note, breakpoints and being able to use Xdebug is another critical aspect of passing Magento tests. Set a breakpoint there. Refresh the page. The breakpoint is triggered. Then you go back through the call stack, and you're going to set more breakpoints. You're going to stop the execution of that. You're going to refresh the page, and you're going to start stepping through those breakpoints, establishing in your mind, how does the workflow of this happen? You could spend an hour on the subject right alone. Now, this is from the Professional Developer Plus, so it's pretty difficult. But you could spend an hour on this. Just one little point. But you're going to have an incredibly deep knowledge of this subject. Okay, practical example 2. You're retrieving a UI components instance from the UI registry. Well, do a search for this type of thing as well. Of course, Alan Storm comes up. What an incredible guy in this Magento community. And read his article. Open up Chrome Developer Tools and do it. So you locate the UI component in Magento code and go through and load it up in the UI registry. It's these type of things that are really going to help you in passing the test. All right, let me catch up with a question from Yogesh. So Yogesh, again, I'll be talking in just a couple of minutes about taking tests online. But second question, let's see if we can answer that quickly here. Have access to Magento Commerce. Excellent. Is it possible to take and clear the cloud about reading it without having access to cloud? Okay, so I am going to say it will be very difficult because it's less about commerce, to be really frank, and more about cloud. It's going to be difficult. If you study, for example, use the study guide that I've written, you're going to have a much better chance. I still can't guarantee that you'll pass, but you probably will have a much better chance. So I haven't really done much investigation in that, simply because I think it's good for people to have cloud access and most important, but I can't really say beyond that. So I guess I would have to say it depends, and I really don't like giving it depends answers. All right, so we've looked at the first level of this knowledge. The second level is verifying it in question form, in formats similar to how it's going to be in the real test. So Magento Use Study Guide has several free questions. Those are usually rejects from the test writing workshop. Now, I will say that they're rejects not because of their quality, but usually there was a mistake and a couple extra questions got written for a objective or several objectives. That's you, or actually another reason is that they were conflicting. So this question would answer this other question in the test. So those are valuable in themselves, but they're not rejects just because they were really bad questions. That's a valuable resource. Of course, I've written practice tests, and my goal is taking my test writing experience in making these questions similar to the test. Of course, they're not going to be the same as the test. But the key point is don't memorize the questions. They're not going to be found on the test. So just have to go into that with that idea. They're not going to be found on the real test. But what it does do is it tests your knowledge of these specific subjects. Questions have specificity like that. It's almost like a knife or surgeon's blade. Very, very, very specific. But if like we're wanting to do wood carving, you would use a knife to cut out just a little bit of that piece of wood. But if we wanted to take out a whole bunch of area, we would use sandpaper. And sandpaper is very general. It's very wide, but it takes a little bit longer to study for that. If we want to if we want to lower a piece of wood's depth in that area, we have to take sandpaper for a little bit longer time versus using a knife like a scalpel and cutting that wood out. So questions are very narrow, very pointed, but objectives are wide. But we want to study for the wide area, the objective, instead of just studying specific individual questions, because questions can change. Magento tests are updated at a random, regular basis, so we don't exactly even know when they're refreshed. So instead of working through to memorize practice test questions, invest the time in learning. Invest the time in building a module. Invest the time in sample investigations, working through Xdebug, stepping through this code line by line. If you're taking the JavaScript developer, use Chrome developer tools. Step through JavaScript code line by line. You're going to find out a lot of information. I do have to say this. I don't like talking about it, but these were actually real emails that I have received in the past about people looking to pass a Magento certification saying, hey, I wanted to get this certification right away. So is there question dumps that I can memorize and then go pass the test? Okay. Other than it being cheating, and we don't know, and you don't know whether this question dump is up to date with the latest Magento test version. You could be memorizing something that's out of date and then you still go and fail. The other problem is that it does damage to the entire test itself. If you cheat and you pass the test, then you are going and people are trying to take or people are talking to you. It's like, wow, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, and they're solution specialist certified. How do they know that? So, working through a question dump, it also deprives you of all the knowledge. Remember what I said, this knowledge bank is the most valuable part of taking a test. You just deprived yourself. It's like stealing cash from yourself. You've done that. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Instead, take the longer route. It's a little more difficult. It's a little harder, but you will gain so much out of it. I promise you. All right. Another thing, these tests are in English. So write all notes in English. Practice your reading comprehension. You can do that by reading novels or books. Work to read them as fast as you can. Remember, you have 1.5 minutes per question. So recently I added to our practice test the ability to have a timer. So every question is timed. The whole test is timed. And then at the end of the test, you see a average question or average time per question. So if you take the practice test and you see your average time per question is 2 minutes, we got a problem. We got a real problem. But if you see your average time per question is maybe 45 seconds, good. Now, one thing I would also note, just if you end up taking one of our practice tests, I suggest not looking at the answers at the very end of it. I know that's the common step toward memorization, but just rein yourself in. don't look at the answers. Instead, look at the objectives and their score on each one of those objectives, and then go study those objectives. Remember, questions are very pointed as far as what they're testing, but you need to learn the overarching knowledge behind those questions. There's also free English comprehension quizzes available all over the place. Take those. Again, you want to be fast as far as being able to understand and read and understand these questions. And I say this just so you understand, expect to take 80 hours or more preparing for a Magento exam. 80 hours or more. It's going to take a lot, my friends, a lot in order to be able to pass this test. Expect to spend that amount of time. All right, so when are you ready to pass this test? When? I would when I was back living with my parents, I would often go to my dad and say, like, I just don't know if I'm ready to take this test or not. I feel like I've studied a lot. And he had the most valuable sage piece of knowledge, and I want to pass on to you. And that is this first point right here. He said, do you feel like there's anything left to study? And if my answer was no, I can't think of anything else that I need to study or anything that I haven't studied yet. At that point, he would say, all right, I think you're ready to take the test. And my friends, I share that with you as well, because it's true. If you feel like there's nothing more that you can study, if you feel like you've turned over every rock, if you have invested yourself and said, I will study this. This seems difficult. This seems hard to study, but I will study it. At that point, you are ready to take the test. But until you've turned over every rock, until you have studied every single point on this study guide in great depth, you are not ready to take the test. I will tell you that right now. And if you are getting low marks on a practice test, you're not ready to take the test either. All right. Let's catch up on, let me finish up on this last one here. You can take a practice test, and if you can answer the questions in 1.5 minutes each. This is, again, please do not look at answers on these questions until you are literally ready to take the final test. That is the only time that I recommend looking at the answers. Do not look at the answers until then. For example, I took my practice test, got an 81% on it, and I then got an 80% on the real test. If I would have gone through that practice test 50 times, gotten worked up to 100% score on the practice test, it would not have affected my score on the real test. So the practice test, I don't look at that as much as a study tool. It is more of an assessment. It's more of a thing to save me money. Whatever it costs, $20 or $25, $30, just to take a practice test and then to see whether I'm ready to take the real test. That is the value of the practice test. It's not as much of a study tool. So 1.5 minutes each on this. Let's catch up with some questions. Okay, Barath, congratulations. He is a full stack, Magento full stack developer. A full stack developer is like the black diamond. It means one of the best ever. And I think if I remember correctly, the statistic is 2%. 2% of Magento certified developers are full stack. So Barath is in the top 2% of Magento certified developers worldwide. And I'm guessing less than 50% of Magento developers worldwide are certified. So well into the top 1% of Magento developers worldwide. Congratulations. All right. So he is asking what test he should take next. You might want to go for the solution specialist. I think that would be a good challenge for you, and why not just go for that? Another question is Yogesh asked about the sandbox. Is there a sandbox available for silver bronze partners? Yes. So that is a feature available to Magento bronze partners at least, and silver for sure also have access to that as well. So yeah, and again, congratulations, Barath. That is a great accomplishment. It was funny. So I had 6 out of the 8 certifications, and I still didn't have full stack developer. So now that I got this JavaScript, I now have it. So it's a good feeling. So again, the knowledge you have invested in yourself in order to get those 3 certifications to get that full stack badge, it's incredible. And so congratulations. You are into the top 1% of developers worldwide to be able. So it's incredible. Good job. That's all I can say. All right. So how do I take this test? Moving on here. So you can take it at Test Center. Actually, I need to update that slide right there. I was going to put you guys' location in here. But here's the problem. Thanks to this coronavirus, this COVID-19, or as I used to call it, or as I do call it, the no coronas coronavirus. Corona is also a Mexican beer, so it's not necessarily a reason for celebration here in the States at all. Test centers are closed. So you can't go take a test at a test center. So what's the other option? And I had a whole thing I went through about taking a test center. I just don't recommend it at all. I don't take tests at test centers anymore. You can take it at home or at your office. Actually, right now, under lockdown, it's at your home. But keep in mind a couple of things. First, it does take a webcam, a separate detached webcam. So I should have detached it here. I have a webcam sitting on my desk here. You know, the funny thing is I don't even use this anymore. I needed to get rid of it off my desk. So you have a separate webcam that's attached, that's here. That's great. You can use that. You cannot use your laptop webcam. It has to be sitting off to the side. So let's say here's my computer screen right here. Here's me. I put it off to the side. And actually, on my YouTube channel, I recorded a video of my JavaScript developer test-taking experience and went through the whole thing from when I woke up in the morning until when I passed, and then some thoughts about that test. So it's really deep insight as far as what it is to take to pass that test. But I also show my whole setup as well. So the big issue is, and we were just having a conversation about this on Slack a few days ago, is your internet connection. You need to have it be steady, and it needs to be fairly fast. So if I remember correctly, at least like 4 down, 1 up. And so, but it has to be steady. Can't be like on, off, on, off. Otherwise, you're going to have real challenges as you try to take that test. So it has to be steady and has to have decent internet connection. Unfortunately, if you don't have that, you do need to hold off. You do need to wait until you can go to a test center. But take it at home, at the office. The nice part about that is that usually it's a quiet environment. You're comfortable in this environment. You're not going to be having people coughing and sneezing and hacking and all that next to you. Squeaky chairs, these fidgeting habits where people rocking back and forth the whole time. And of course the chair squeaks. You're not going to have any of that. So take it at home, take it out to your office if possible. But the most important thing is to purchase that voucher and get it scheduled. There's nothing like getting it scheduled. You got to get it on the calendar. Otherwise, we got a big project and another big project and another big project and another big project, and it's never going to happen. You got to get it on this calendar. You got to get it ready to go there. So what do we expect? This is probably the most important one of all. What do we expect on this test? All right. Magento test questions are scenario-based. There is a scenario, there is a question, and there's some answers. The scenario will provide some knowledge. I originally went into this thinking, wow, scenario is going to be great. It's going to just tell me all the information I need to know to answer the question. I'll be able to figure out the answer based off the scenario, and we're going to get 100% score on these tests. No, that's not it. It basically sets up the question. It provides you some information about the specific configuration or what needs to happen, or sometimes it actually even provides code. It says what needs to be done to this code, or what's wrong with this code, or how do we need to change this? So we have the scenario, then we have the question. And that's the action needs to be taken. Sometimes it'll say what 2 actions need to be taken in order to accomplish this. But either way, then we have answers. So we have 1 out of 4, which is radio buttons like this, like you see here. 2 out of 4, which would be checkboxes, or 3 out of 5. And keep in mind, if you get a 2 out of 4 or a 3 out of 5, and you get one of those wrong, you fail the whole question. So those are particularly onerous, I would say. Those are the more difficult questions, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 5. My experience, those are less than 30% of the test. So you have about 60% of the test, that is the 1 out of 4. So that's always good news. So then you have to determine, okay, what do we got going on here? And this is note here how you have the time here. So you have total time left, and then you have how much time per question that you've taken. All right, so again, questions are practical. You're going to have, what is the effect of this? How does this work? What is wrong with this code? Actually, there's no negatives on the test. And so it's always positive. So how do I resolve this? How do I make this happen in this way? So I think there's actually no answers that have the word no or not in them, just because it's easy to miss that word for whatever reason. So no memorization questions. Memorization-based question would be something like, in Magento, what payment methods are available in Magento Commerce that are not available in open source? That question would be rejected for a number of reasons. But the answers could possibly be, what was it, WorldPay and CyberSource and those type of things. Now those are becoming less of an issue in commerce because, for example, CyberSource now has a open source module, or a module that works in both open source and commerce. So there's no memorization-based questions. So we also have 90 seconds per question, 60 questions per test, 1.5 minutes per question. That's where it's really important that you are understanding how long is this taking you on average to answer these questions in a practice scenario. All right, one of the big challenges with this is you're going to have questions like this: keeping maintainability in mind, or keeping upgradability in mind, keeping testability in mind. As such, how do we answer those questions? How do we work through what is maintainability? All right, so let me give you a couple pointers here. Maintainability means, or actually, first, let me say this. Anytime we have one of those questions, that means there is going to be multiple right answers. So we have multiple right answers. So maintainability means that we need to choose the option that's a little bit more maintainable, more upgradable, the most upgradable. So what is the best solution? We could maybe override a template when there's another option that works. Looks like I'm running a little bit out of time here, so I'm going to jump ahead here, taking test-taking strategies. So I suggest doing this. If you're taking a test, we have work through the test 3 times. And this is what I do. Assess the test. It's going to take about 30 minutes to do that. Every time you have a difficult answer, mark it. You can mark for review. It's a checkbox. Then round 2, you're going to go through the difficult answers 30 to 40 minutes for that round. So again, we have 90 minutes divided up into 3 rounds. So the first one, 30 minutes, second one, 30 to 40 minutes. Work through, take your time on these difficult answers. The last thing you want to do is do it in 1 round and you don't get all the questions answered. Of course, that means you're going to fail the test. So work through on the second round, 30 to 40 minutes per question. The final one is then go double check every answer. It's like you've never seen this question and answers before. Go through it and double check. Use up the clock. I always work to use up the clock. Even if I feel like I have a really solid grasp of this test, use up the clock. Double check yourself. Work through it again. You're probably going to find a couple of answers that you missed. I always find a couple that I end up changing the answers on in the last couple of rounds. I like to schedule for Tuesday morning, which I did for this JavaScript developer test here recently. I feel like has the best chance of passing because I don't study on Sunday. Maybe take Saturday off, but Monday allows me to get back into studying, and then Tuesday morning I am ready to hit this. It's not also the beginning Monday. I don't know. Monday is not as good of a day for me usually. Anyways, morning. Start with the morning. Block it off so you're not working to think through any other work distractions or anything like that. And as a result, I hope for every single one of you, you will get a passing score for this test, a passing score. And I would love to see that. And look, I went from a 51% to an 88%. It was a pretty incredible jump. And I was really excited about that. And that is the same thing for you as well. You can use this to, using this suggestion, these things that I have learned. I'm wanting to share them with you to help you be successful in passing. I'm just getting a note here. Actually, it says I feel free to use up a little bit more time on my presentation. So I'm going to go back and talk about this grouping the answers. That is important here. So the important thing here is oftentimes in these questions, so we have a question or we have the scenario with the question, and then we have the answers. You can usually group these answers together to determine which one is correct. And so usually it's going to be two groups of 2. So you have 2 answers and then 2 answers. And so like in a 1 out of 4, you know that obviously 1 out of 4 of those questions is correct. You can divide it out into 2 groups. Usually you can eliminate one of those groups, and then you have 2 answers. It's 1 of 2 answers that are going to be correct. That means you have a 50-50 chance of getting that question correct. in 50-50. I'll take a 50-50 any day over 1 and 4, or a 25% chance in getting it. So anytime you can, group those answers, throw out the ones you know are emphatically wrong, and then work with the last 2 answers and do your best to piecemeal what would be the more correct answer. All right, so that's what I want to say there. We can do some Q&A here for a few minutes. One thing I want to say before that, I recognize, my friends, that maybe some of you have lost your job, been laid off as a result of this coronavirus, just craziness. And sadly, I know that in the whole scheme of things, it's still losing a job is still small compared to dying of coronavirus. And there are people all over. Even last night, I know that died from coronavirus. I don't know them personally, but in New York City especially. But losing a job is a big deal. How are we going to feed our family? How are we going to pay for our rent? But what many people do have, or everyone has as a result of being laid off, is extra free time. And free time is the catalyst to upping our knowledge, to improving our knowledge, to growing our knowledge. And while this is a very difficult time for so many people, I firmly believe that, especially for those people who don't have a job right now, you can exit this difficult time and you can grow tremendously. You can turn your life and your career around because of this free time you have today. Are you going to waste it on, and I'm just going to be really frank, on video games and that kind of thing? Or are you going to invest it in your future self? If you want to invest it in your future self, please email me. If you've been laid off from your job as thanks to this whole coronavirus stuff, please email me, Joseph@SwiftOtter, and I will be happy to share with you a free study guide and get you access to to access the practice test for any one of these Magento tests. Even if you don't go and take the Magento test, you still will have the time and extra knowledge available to you to be able to learn, to be able to grow, to be able to build modules that will validate your understanding, to be able to get a whole bunch of to grow your knowledge so that when you exit this time and you get a job again, that then hopefully then you'll be able to also get certified as well. Your knowledge will be far beyond what it is right now in whatever area of or domain of knowledge that you're an expert in. So that's my offer to you. For those of you that have lost your job as a result of this coronavirus, please email me. Again, it's joseph@swiftotter.com, and I will be happy to share with you some of what I have learned. In other words, a study guide and a practice test for whatever Magento test you would like to take. I will steer you to the associate developer first, simply because that's the most likely chances you have of passing one right now. But if you have lost your job, feel free to take me up on that offer. It's private, of course. I'm not going to share it with the world, but because I want to see you successful. This your free time right now. You have to transform your life going into the future. And I would love to see that happen for you. So all done with that. Any questions and answers? It was great. We had a whole bunch of great questions going through this. But is there any other questions I can answer at this point now? And feel free to use the chat works great, or you can maybe unmute yourself. Depending on the sound quality, sometimes it's kind of hard to understand there. But the chat here, the group chat is a great way to ask those questions.
Guys, if you have any questions, I think you can post it on the chat, and Joseph is here to answer your questions. Let's take a minute or two for that. If there's anything, you can just start posting it on the chat. I think we have one from Rajan.
Yeah, hey Rajan, thanks for the question. So WordPress plugin developer, well, that's great. So getting into Magento certification. So if you are looking to get into Magento development, I would, of course, recommend starting with the associate developer test. But here's the thing. With that project guide, so you can find it on our website, swiftotter.com, and just go to certifications area. You click on the developer guide, and then there's a link to the project guide in there. I'm going to make it a little more obvious here as time goes on. But in that, it will take you step by step through actually installing Magento, and then building a module that you can take advantage of, start working through. And it's a fully functioning module. It's actually based off a real world system or a module that I built for one of our merchants. So work through that, and you're going to get an excellent foundation for beginning Magento development. Now, I will warn you, Magento development is very different than WordPress development. Very different. But I think it's going to be a really good starting place. There's videos. There's the project guide. Even if you don't want to start with if you don't want to purchase the study guide right now, start with a project guide. It's free. Just work through that. Say, hey, do I like this type of development? Do I not like it? If you don't like it, well, then you're not out any money. If you do love it, if you do like it, well, then purchase the study guide and go get started. Go get ready to take the test. So that would be my suggestion there. Keshav, what % chance to pass the associate developer pass the associate certification using SwiftOtter study guide and practice test? Now, I'm going to say done right, 100%. But here's the thing. I put out knowledge. I do my very best to make it understandable and in a good format for you. But what I think is more important, though, is that it's about you, how you are going to apply it. How are you going to utilize this? So if you just say, okay, I'm going to read through the practice, I'm going to read through the study guide, take a couple hours, read through the study guide, and then I'm going to go take the practice test, I'm going to take the real test. Or you're not going to pass. But if you say, okay, I'm going to work through the associate study guide, I'm going to then work through the project guide as well. And I'm going to take time. I'm going to take a week or two on every objective. So the associate developer guide, I would probably recommend about 2 weeks per objective. I'm going to go through each one of these. I'm going to work through the sample modules. I'm going to read through the other extra links. I'm going to look through the source code. I'm going to set breakpoints and the jumping off points, the practical experience points in this. And I'm going to take 12 weeks plus or minus in order to learn this material. 100% chance you'll pass. So it comes down to you and what approach you will take to pass the test. Okay, Barath, how to motivate team members, employees to get certified from an organization point of view. That's difficult. And I think there's a couple of points that I would love to suggest there. First is if there is a way to monetarily incentivize that. So, for example, at SwiftOtter, we have, we build websites, just like I'm sure many of you do, but we do have monetary on pay increases. So if you pass the test, if you pass this test, you will get X amount of extra money per year. So it's not even like a one-time bonus. One-time bonus is great as well. Second way is for you to do it yourself. If you are a team lead, go do it yourself. Again, you're a great example in this because you're full stack developer. So people are going to look up at you. They're going to say, wow, Parath knows what he's talking about. He is one sharp dude. And you're going to motivate them, incentivize them based off of that. It's really hard if you don't do any of that. And of course, I know Magento and Adobe is trying to get people certified. So that's top down. People are saying, they're saying, you got to get certified. You got to get certified. Oh, and one other thing is give people time on the clock to study. So say the first 15 minutes or half an hour of their workday can be devoted to study time for this test. Make sure that they can block it off. Don't send them work emails, emergencies, or anything like that. In that first half an hour of their day, that's a great way to motivate them to study. So they have that time available. So those three things, let me back up again then. So top down, it's not very effective to get people to do something difficult, something hard like taking a Magento test. But if you incentivize with a monetary bonus, whether it's one-time or long-term, whether you then do it yourself, if you are not a developer, go work on the solution specialist test. And then also give them the time in order to do it. Very effective in getting people to be able to get certified. Oh, and one other thing, don't bang them over the head that they have to pass the first time. If they don't pass, say, okay, I'm sorry, it's unfortunate, but you're going to pass the second time, I hope. And here's how we're going to help you pass. as opposed to creating such a fear of failure that nobody wants to even risk taking the test just because they might fail. Okay, well, let's see here. .NET developer, love Magento functionalities. How do I get started learning Magento? So there's some great courses out there. I know Max Pronko, Mark Schust has something. But that's also where I built this project guide as well. It's free to help start you into Magento development, get you going into this, because it's going to help you understand how to do things the right way. And it's practical experience. And that's what I think is so lacking in this starting out journey. You need practical experience. You need stuff that you can work on that's applicable today and tomorrow. So that project guide is really helpful. Yogesh, all right. The option to take the test is available at, yes. So if you want to take a Magento test at home, you'll purchase the voucher. Then you can go register on Crypterian's website using and then you have the option to take it online proctored or on site. So you want to choose the online proctor method, and the same price for both. Okay, yes. Okay, Vikram answered that already. Great. A MEM1 certified front-end developer, 9 years experience is good. So can get it without. Okay, so I would still suggest taking the still studying for the front-end developer. In my experience, most people have between 50 and 70% of the knowledge to pass the test. The killer is the other 30 to 50%. So you might have great experience with Knockout.js. So if that's the case, you might want to go more for the JavaScript developer test first. But you might not have as much experience with static ACID compilation or less. And it's those things that can really kill you in trying to pass this test. So I do suggest still going through this. You're going to learn things about Magento that you never knew before. I guarantee it. I'm constantly learning every day. And so just take that and make that, work to make it, work to get in there and study. All right. Okay. Siva, please guide me in the best tutorial for getting all the concepts basic to advanced in Magento 2 specifically. It's a free tutorial. That'd be very nice. So again, that's where I'm going to reference the project guide. And let me just drop this link in the chat so everybody has it. I'm going to go get it here. Certifications. So it's your developer study guide. Okay. I am putting this into the chat. So you have the availability to go and download the entire project guide. And what's most important, so I do this to help you out, but if you would please help me out in this way, send me an email as you work through that. If you have questions, if you find things that are wrong with it, send me an email, things that are not clear. I want to know, because I want this to be the very best resource for beginning Magento development. I think it has the potential to be that. I've already gotten some great feedback. It's already been revised many times, but I need your help. Every one of you who uses this, to get into there and to let me know how I can improve it. What things that are not clear to you, what things don't make sense to you, what things that I gloss over that needs to be changed. That's what's really important to me. So I would appreciate your help on that. So thank you all for your time today. It's been a pleasure being with you. I look forward to, hopefully we're going to run into each other in the future. And actually, I've hopefully be able to come over and to meet Magento India next year. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So we'll see if that works out. But maybe I'll be able to meet some of you then. So thank you all so much for the time. And it was great being with you all.
Hopefully, Joseph, that was a great presentation, so definitely enjoyed that. And just like Joseph was talking about, hopefully you guys are all building up your mindset and growing from this event, from Corona. I know things are definitely changed, and, this is definitely the time to really just restart and just really build up yourself from here and build up that foundation, whether it be knowledge for mentality or even working out, even building up these habits. So hopefully the habits, we've been in quarantine for almost 20 days now, and hopefully your habits isn't just watching Netflix and just doing all these fun things and playing games, but actually building up yourselves. But I believe that you guys are doing a really good job. There's about 70 people that joined this webinar today, and I'm confident that you guys are all here to learn and learn from the best. So just from my side too, just really want to share with you guys DCKAP eSummit. So this is one of the summits that we host every year, usually in Cleveland, Ohio area. But unfortunately, with coronavirus happening, we had to cancel this event. Now we're moving it totally digital. Not sure if some of you guys were registered to go to the Adobe Summit for the Magento Imagine should have been last week. So for me, I actually live in Las Vegas, and it's actually sad to not be able to be a part of Imagine this year. I've been going for the past 6-7 years, and this is the first time it canceled, and a lot of other events are canceling as well. So, but for us, we have DCKAP eSummit, and we'd love to invite all you guys to go there. I'm going to share the link for you guys to attend. So it's free to attend. So you could RSVP by going here by the orange button. So this will be on April 28th from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. This will be in Eastern time. So a lot of the attendees will be near. They should be near the Cleveland, Ohio area. So we're still catering to that market, but we are opening up to the whole world. So from this link, you could kind of just see the speakers that we have. So people from BigCommerce and Magento, Gorgeous, and then we are going to be promoting some website launch for GIS Jurgens, and then they're on the BigCommerce platform, and then we also have Midland Scientific. They're going to be on the Magento 2 platform. So we're catering to a lot of the B2B market distributors, and hopefully this will be a success. So this could be a great time to be able to network. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see all the different sessions that we have. And we're trying to make it a little bit different too, because, with going to these different events and conferences, those are times where you're able to network with other leaders in the ecosystem, in all e-commerce platforms. But in terms of for our digital summit, we're looking to maybe break out in sessions where you're able to network with other people in small breakout sessions. Even have a stretch yoga break. So, have a friend that has a company. He's going to teach us how to just really learn how to, breathe and take breaks, as we get ready for, working from home. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to send something on the chat box. My email is also timothyd@dckap.com. I'll be around, sticking around to answer any questions, but you guys are all free to come to this event, and we'd love to have you join, and it's going to be a great event in terms of B2B.